All right, everybody, welcome back to the Manufacturing Alliance podcast. As always, I'm your host, Tony Demakis from Alliance Specialties and Laser Sales. And we do all things mold making. We are mold makers that don't build molds. And as crazy as that sounds, it actually makes sense, right? So we do the things that mold makers don't tend to want to do. The mold finishing, the polishing, we can handle surface coatings and platings and things like that. We also specialize in laser welding, laser engraving, hot runner manifold repair. I am hearing echoes again. Here we go. We always have this issue, and today should be no different. Not that one. Not that one. That one. Got it. All right. And so, the show is imperfect. We're going to go with that. And that's fine. So that's Alliance in a nutshell. I would be happy to talk with you more about that. If you are looking for somebody to help you with your maintenance needs, your mold making needs, laser welding, laser engraving, things like that, we can definitely help you. Today, we're doing something special. We are part of the SPE, the Society of Plastics Engineers, and we have two guests on today, Denise Sanftleben. I think I got that right. And Jeremy Dworshak. They are part of the SPE with me. And so the three of us have an event coming up that we're going to talk about a little bit more. But without further ado, I am going to get to them and let them introduce themselves as well, because, people don't want to just hear about me. So how are you people?
Yeah, doing great.
Good. Hi. So Denise, why don't we start with you? Why don't you tell people who you are, where you work, a little bit of your background, and we'll go from there.
Sure. I'm Denise Sanftleben. I work at GMN Plastics in Beaverton, Oregon. We're a division of GM Nameplate. Our corporate office is in Seattle. My background is plastic injection molding. I've been around a long time in our local plastics community. So GM Nameplate primarily started out in the 50s as a nameplate maker, and they've moved on to 4 divisions US side and 2 offshore.
So what is a long time? Without, I don't want to age you, but what is a long time as far as the industry?
I started as a machine operator in 1987.
Awesome.
So it's been a while.
And it's been great ever since.
Over the year. So.
And Jeremy, your turn.
Thanks, Denise. I was thinking about what you just said, starting in 1987. I remember hearing people talk about how long they've been in the industry for a long time, and I'm used to thinking like, yeah, that is a long time. But then hearing you, I'm like, yeah, that's not that long. So I think that just kind of shows how much I'm aging in the industry as well, possibly. But I'm Jeremy Dworshak. I work as a research specialist at 3M, near the corporate headquarters here in St. Paul, Minnesota. Kind of get to have the opportunity to kind of dive in with R&D with regarding to plastics and molding, and then have the really fun part of not just thinking about it, but then also attempting to apply it, and making some products out of it. And 3M, as probably most viewers know, they're kind of they're involved in a lot of products. And I would say this past year's event, obviously with COVID's kind of put 3M in some of the spotlight, right? With some of the respirators that 3M makes.
Yep.
So, but it's a very innovative and very collaborative company, and it's been a pleasure to be a part of it. Just over a year now, I started.
That's awesome. I just looked at my desk and I've got 3M tape right here.
Yeah.
Because we're actually using it on the back of our nameplates for our laser welding machines, and we're going to stick it to the base of the machine. So there's my plug for 3M for today.
Nice.
So real quick, let's talk about SPE. I know what I get out of SPE. I think Society of Plastics Engineers is a great organization. It's what brought the three of us together, really. Mm-hmm. And I think that it's something that is underappreciated by a lot of people, especially in our industry. I think people hear like get involved, be part of an organization, but they don't really understand what that means. And so what I found is people tend to pay their dues and say that they're part of an organization, but it doesn't go any further. So are you guys part of the same group in SPE? Because there's a ton of different groups.
Yeah, I don't know that we are. So I'm in the upper Midwest section. Denise, I think you're probably in the West
I'm in the
Coast.
Columbia River.
Yeah, there it is. And then we might be in the same division, possibly, maybe injection molding division.
Right. Yeah, we are.
Mm-hmm.
Locally here for us, it's a challenge. Especially with COVID, trying to figure out how are we going to put on presentations and how are we going to, we're looking virtually, trying to figure out how to keep the community engaged.
Right, that whole bridging of the SPE's mantra, that knowledge and networking, right? Like you were saying, Tony, that the gain is a lot, especially if you kind of immerse yourself and kind of make the connections. Like, I'm very ecstatic that I'm getting to meet you two, and that we all volunteered for something with an SPE. And as a side benefit, we had to meet really nice, fun people, knowledgeable people that can maybe help us with a project down the road or help us with a problem that we're having.
Yeah, and I love that idea of like knowledge and networking, right? Because I've really only been in the industry 4.5 years, right around there. So for me, the knowledge part is huge. The idea that now I can reach out to Denise, Jeremy, Adam, who we talked about earlier, Scott, different people that are on our mold technologies division board. When I have a problem, because I clearly don't have the answer. Nobody is going to mistake me for being an engineer and knowing so much about the industry. But what's great is being able to have that knowledge base to be able to do that. If a question comes up in our shop, in our facility, with a customer where they want to know the best way to do something, I have an opportunity and ability to reach out and network with people that I normally wouldn't have. And it's awesome.
Be wary though, Tony. You'll be surprised like how quickly even like a small amount of knowledge, perceived or real, will immediately label you as the expert in that area. And funny enough, that's actually how I first got introduced to SPE. My first job was doing extrusion and pultrusion, and I was somehow, because I did a little bit of research but not a lot on extrusion to try to figure out a problem, I became the resident expert, and I quickly realized that I wasn't. and so I reached out and found SPE, and I really wish I would have remembered the name of the first gentleman I randomly contacted with an SPE just to learn more about it. But it was a gentleman, towards the end of his career. He just gave me some good words of advice. His first words to me, I'll never forget them. He goes, "So are you a member of SPE?" I said, "No, I'm not." He said, "Well, number one, join. Number two, here's the events that that SP was putting on at the time that he knew about, that he thought would help me, and I attended, and they did. And so I'm, even though that man remains nameless, unfortunately, his words carried with me.
Yeah. Denise, do you have a similar story to that?
Well, I think networking is very critical, really.
Yeah.
We have here locally a fairly small base of molders. But networking is important. You can pick up the phone and say, "Hey, I'm having a challenge finding this material. Do you have some?" And, or can I borrow that thermolator, or those kind of things. If you have a good network of other molders that you're working with and suppliers, you can leverage that. And the knowledge is critical too. If you're having a challenge, you can pick up the phone and check in with someone else. We're all competitors, but we're also colleagues and friends.
Yeah, I think that's the key part. That's one of the things I love about the Midwest when it comes to like the mold builders and even the molders. I can't speak for the whole rest of the country, but the people that I've worked with, they just want to see their customer have success in the end, right? So if that's sharing knowledge and resources and reaching out to people and saying, "Listen, I have too much work. I have overflow. What's your workload? Can I pass some of it on to you?" And a lot of that, just working together for that common good is what I've seen from the SPE, the AMBA, the TMA, like all those organizations as a whole. And I think what you said, Denise, is true. We're competitors, but we're all colleagues, and we're going to work together for the good of our industry, the plastics industry as a whole. I think there's a lot of really good stories to tell about plastic, especially now, right? With everything that's happened in the last year, I think there's a lot of good stories. And we want to get to some of that too. But real quick, we've got Max Preston from Canada has signed in. Adam Barker is there, and John Casbin. Those are some people that are watching on LinkedIn. So if you guys have any questions or comments, go ahead and put those in the chat. We are live on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. So anytime you guys have a question or a comment, if you put that in the chat, we will respond to it as long as we see it. Last time we had an issue, Jeremy was making all these great comments and we never saw it, but we put things in place and we learned from it, right? There's that continuous improvement thing. So we made some mistakes. Mary Kate saw some posts and some comments that were coming in. So now she is going to be feeding those to us on my phone. So if you see me looking down, I'm not being rude because the conversation isn't good. I'm just trying to make sure that we cover everybody. So yeah, I think one of the cool things is this event that we are going to be a part of coming up to talk with the young professionals on hiring, and I think part of that is on interviewing, right? And what employers and interviewers are asking, and what kind of things that they want to hear about. Do you guys now, Denise and Jeremy, do you guys do the hiring for your company, or do you just have some feedback for people?
I'm involved in that process.
Okay.
Yeah, at 3M, no, but I've had, experiences in the past where I did direct hiring.
Yeah.
And the event on the 23rd is kind of interviewing in the virtual world, which I think is critical because there's so many changes that have happened, not only with COVID, but just technology, and having to put yourself forward via video instead of sitting in a room. It's got its challenges in itself. Yeah. And
it's also got some pluses. I mean, you only have to wear a nice shirt. You don't have to worry if your pants are wrinkled. You don't even have to wear shoes. It's great. I mean, on that side, it's great. But I think, and I don't want to spoil anything or give anything away when we do the speaking and the moderation panel coming up on that. But I think a lot of it is just being authentic and being who you are and letting that come through in what you're doing.
And I think a lot of times as individuals, especially as you're growing and learning, you're not necessarily sure what is the best way to present yourself. And I know for me and my personal experiences with hiring and wanting to be hired, I learned a lot from what we talked about earlier, our network. I reached out to people that I either admired or thought were in a position that I thought was also a positive position. And I asked them, if they'd share their resume with me, or even like what they create, their documents that they create. I learned a lot from them, just how it is that they present themselves. And then to get to your point, Tony, then utilizing that to try to emulate what it is I am, so that I can try to present that to someone that's looking to hire me.
Yeah. Denise, you got any nuggets before we do our actual show?
I think understanding the company that you're going to hire with, what about them? Have you looked them up? Do you know anything about them? If you show an interest, I think it's really important to know what you're going in there for and what the company is about. I think that's key. I think that impresses companies. You're not just another interview. Your heart is in it and you really want the job.
Yeah. And I think all companies want to hire somebody that has like the same kind of foundational principles, make sure that they fit their core values, make sure that they fit who they are as a company, and not trying to put a round peg in a square hole.
Sure.
So I think all of those things are really important. Doing a little bit of research, not just showing up cold, and jumping into that. So, yeah, I think that's going to be a really fun conversation.
I do too.
I'm looking forward to it. I hope that there's a lot of people that tune in for it. And that there's some good questions and feedback. I think it's cool that they have a wide gamut of companies on scope and size, because you don't know who you're going to go interview with when you're starting out. So it'll be an interesting conversation, but I think my assumption is that in the end, whether it's 3M, whether it's GM nameplate, whether it's Alliance, no matter who it is, the feedback is going to be fairly similar, where, you know, what those companies are actually looking for versus maybe what somebody assumes that they're going to be looking for.
Mm-hmm. And it's really, I think, in my opinion, it's all relationship driven. You know, and it has commonalities to personal relationships in a way too. You know, what it is that you want as a person, and what it is you want what your employer wants, and is there a match? You know, is there a value match? Is there, and if there is a mismatch, maybe if you recognize that, maybe you recognize as a short-term relationship, and that's okay too. Not all short-term relationships are a bad thing, right? But it's a lot of similarities with just relationships in general.
Yeah, I was out with a customer, and you know, we were out for lunch, and then we were coming back, and I said, I got to be back at X time because we have an interview coming in. And they were asking me, they were like, do you have set list of questions that you ask a potential team member? And I said, no. And they're like, well, then, like, what do you do? How do you interview them? And I said, really, what's important to me is, like, do we gel? Are we good together? Like, do I like who you are as a person? You know, we want to hire for character and then train. You know, if you have somebody that has all those hard skills, but they can't communicate, they don't get along with you, you can't, you know, we're going to work very closely together in a lot of projects. If we can't just sit down and have a conversation, I know right away this isn't going to work. And, you know, for me, that's one of those things where, you know, let's just sit down, let's talk. You know, I learned that from my father. Because I sat in with some interviews with him, and you know, people would bring a resume or whatever, and he would do one of these. Tell me a story. Who are you? What are you looking for? And that was it. Like, he just wanted to get to know who that person was and see if they were going to be a good fit for who we are as a company.
Yeah, I agree.
That's important.
Yeah. Lorena from Progressive Components has joined us on LinkedIn as well. Lorena, I would love to hear what Progressive's hiring practices are. You should jot some notes in there, because I know Glenn pretty well, and I don't know if he's part of that, but I can imagine it'd be interesting. So this has been a crazy year, right? 2020 going into 2021. You guys are in various industries. Have you found, what are the challenges that you've found over the last 13 months? Not all the challenges, just, you know, some of them maybe.
I think one of the challenges we're having is, you know, how do we keep that face time with our customers? It's a different world. A lot of our customers can't have suppliers come in. You know, we can't, in a lot of cases, have customers come in.
Is that still the case?
It's starting to open up just a tiny bit, but it's still a challenge for sure. A lot of my customers are working from home, my main contacts. So, you know, how do you keep that relationship that you've created and that partnership that you've created with your customers? Because it's important. And
so what things have you found that, Denise, what things have you found that have worked in doing that?
We're just reaching out and checking in with them. You know, you know, picking up the phone and saying, hey, how you doing? How's your day? What can we do for you? It's still not the same as sitting across the table from them, but it's something, right? And it seems to be getting busier now than it was 6 months ago.
Yeah.
But I think we're a little ways away from this being done. So
I would agree. Jeremy, are you finding the same kind of issues?
Yeah, I say similar, but maybe in a different type of wavelength. It's more about being in a research environment. It's not often that we do have direct contact with our customers per se, but what we're really charged with is developing new. And you know, so the challenging part being remote was creating that innovation still, you know, and that spark. You know, that kind of comes, in my opinion, somewhat naturally when you're kind of in a group physically, not as natural, you know, when you're virtual. It's still there, but it's not quite the same. And that was one of the biggest things I missed. When, for instance, I think for a period of time, maybe most people were at home, and weren't able to go in. And there's a couple-week period here at 3M where the lab wasn't, and I jokingly called it my retirement internship. It was amazing in every way. I did love being at home and focusing on home projects, but I definitely missed the collaboration of the lab. And so I was very happy to be back, and I kind of just be with the team again after that couple-week hiatus, and kind of get back to innovating and kind of brainstorming and dreaming together. That was the big miss that I think we had to overcome.
Yeah, I would 100% agree with you on that. And a lot of it is, at Alliance, we were in the middle of going through the book Traction. I don't know if you're familiar with that book at all. It's a organizational structure, a way to run your business. And, we had our whole leadership team watch and listen to the book together. And we were going over ideas and on what that was going to look like as a company and how we were going to do that, how we were going to progress. And then March hit, and it was like, somebody hit the brakes. And, we had some parts of the team were in the office, but others were remote. And we just, that energy wasn't there. Right. And so we decided that we were going to pump the brakes on it until we can all be together and have that real fire, that real energy where you can feed off of each other in a good way. Like, this is great, right? I like doing our show. I like the energy. I like meeting new people. I wouldn't have done this otherwise, probably in this capacity. So that side of it is fun, but there's something that's missing. That's not the typical face-to-face that people want to get back to. I think that's been a struggle, but at the same point, I want to find the struggle and the positive. So where's the positive in those situations? Denise, do you have a positive? Like, same situation, right? That face-to-face. What's the positive side of the issue that you had?
I think picking up the phone and talking to somebody, in the day-to-day world, you're using email, right? So there's always that communication that isn't very personal. And, for me, traveling to see customers is a part-time job. It's not a full-time job. So, email is what's happening on a daily basis. But picking up the phone and just checking in and making sure that everybody's okay has been really important.
And it gives you a reason to call. And that's not just a sales call. You can actually be a real person, and like you're showing empathy and caring for that person, and they can see that.
Of course.
Yeah, it's really, the technology's really stepped up the game, right? Being able to see each other and allow for a bit more personal experience. So one of the positive things I experienced right away was everybody that I wanted to talk to about something was available. I could call anybody and they were there. They weren't gone. They weren't on a plane. They weren't knee deep in some project at a plant. It was for a short while there, the world was your oyster. And, you could be anywhere at any time with almost anyone. And that actually was pretty powerful, getting to be able to connect with people that maybe you don't normally have the ability to, for either they're busy, you're busy, whatever, right? There was just, for a period of time, we were all not as busy.
Yeah. And that was really nice. And I think it made this technology important,
right?
Where you can have a virtual face-to-face without losing anything. We've used this more in the last year than we ever thought we could have, with customers, with projects, with you name it. This has helped us up our game in incredible ways. And I think you're right, Jeremy. For a long time, like, nobody was able to talk to anybody, and they were missing that connection. Like, even if you're an introvert, I know plenty of introverts who are like, man, I'm just ready for people. And those are the same folks that were like, I don't need to be around people ever. and now they were missing people, and it's an interesting thing that has happened. Lindsay Diamond from Metro Mold is very enthusiastic on LinkedIn, and she said that Jeremy was the one who introduced me to SPE, and now I'm on the new members committee. Thank you, Jeremy. So look at that.
Yeah, thank you, Lindsay.
Nice.
Yeah, great connection, and surprisingly, Lindsay and I met just before the COVID outburst. Right after I started at 3M.
Yep.
And so that was a fortunate in-person connection, one of the last in-person connections right before everything kind of shut down. So that was great. And yeah, Lindsay's awesome, and picked up the ball, and she's running with it. So it didn't take much to get her to spur her enthusiasm. That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. John Casbon from Cas Molds says he agrees with Jeremy. I love the innovation creating with customers to bring their product functionality to life with the design, built, and production. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I have never thought about this before until now, but I'm trying to think of myself, my pre-COVID thoughts about video conferencing, because I certainly had done them, before,
right.
A couple. And then, but they were always trumped with in person, kind of like we were talking about, Denise. Like physically going and seeing your customers. And I can't say for sure exactly what I thought, but I bet if I were to guess a little bit, I bet I would have thought that virtual conference or virtual meetings were a bit lazy and impersonal. And like, well, if you're gonna meet with someone virtually, why don't you just get off your duff and go see them? I wonder if that was part of the stigma around virtual that didn't really give it legs until all those other avenues were blocked from us, and then this was the avenue of choice, right? Doing a virtual.
Sure.
I also like how I feel this last year has let things become a little bit more casual. People have become a little bit more of themselves and not had that super polished professional attitude that you can't keep up forever, but people are working from home and you hear kids running around in the background and you hear dogs barking.
Right.
To me, it brings a level of personality and personableness, I guess. I don't think that's a real word, but that other meetings may not have had, where in the past it's very stiff and strict and it is what it is. And this allows it to be, oh, you have a dog, I have a dog too. Oh, how old are your kids? And maybe you don't need that all in business, but I tend to like to work with people that I know that I consider as a friend. And this kind of let down that barrier a little bit.
Yeah, I'd agree with that too. Yep. Not so embarrassed about maybe something happening in the background. Right. And
yeah,
because it's life.
And everybody's dealing with it together. That's the fun part.
Yeah.
It's not just like my area is in trouble and I have to put on this air. It's almost like if you're too perfect right now, what's going on? Like there's something off there. Everything's a little bit impersonal. So not impersonal, but imperfect,
right.
Which is good. It's a little bit of freedom in that.
And when everybody was working from home, you could, were they sitting in their kitchen? Were they sitting in their living room? Did they actually have an office? And then everybody figured out, you could blur the background, or create your own creative background,
right.
Behind you. But
Brenda Clark from Hasco, every time I've done a call with her, she's got different backgrounds and they usually change throughout the call, whatever we're doing. It's fun. I mean, it's a thing. It's a thing. It's good.
Mm-hmm.
It's a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So Lorena chimed back in when we were asking about, hiring and interviewing. And she said, one of the things that Progressive does that she thinks is key is they have folks chat with different Progressive folks across different departments. So the candidate gets a feel for the culture as we get to know them. And she thinks it's very mutually beneficial. I would agree with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Getting a wide breadth and a feel, right? Like we were talking about earlier, kind of a feel for the dynamic and the personalities, that you're going to be engaging with, and making sure that they and vice versa.
Yeah, and those questions of tell me a time that you challenged and how you overcame it. Like, come on, everybody has that.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need to know that. You need to know, can you get along with this person?
Right.
So one of the other things that you and I, the three of us talked about as a possible topic is like material shortages and what's going on with that and how to deal with it. Denise, what kind of issues are you having with that?
So we're having a lot of challenges with the ice storms that happened in Texas. They were unexpected, of course, and a lot of plants that manufacture the plastic pellets, they've been down, they've been damaged, and they're in the process of being repaired. And while that's happening, the supply is stopped. Our lead times went from 4 to 6 weeks to 16 to 20 weeks.
Wow.
And this is amazing for our industry. I'm not sure I've seen it at this magnitude before. It's hard to wrap your brain around parts that you're going to need or orders you want to place for Christmas time. If the 20-week lead time, how do you think like that? A lot of people don't even forecast out that far very firm. So that's one of the big challenges we're having at the moment. And that's part of working with your network of other molders and other suppliers is, helping each other out through situations like this to support your customers.
And that was the thing I was going to ask is, how are you finding a way around that? How are you getting around that situation of, we need material and we don't have any?
Right. A lot of times it's custom color, custom blends. And, there's not a whole lot we can do. That's one of the things that, you can't go out and ask somebody else for. You're buying it specifically through a manufacturer of that plastic. And being in a regulated industry like we are, we manufacture for medical and aerospace and automotive. They have specifications on their prints that we can't deviate from. So that kind of ties our hands in some cases, for sure.
Yeah, Jeremy, 3M having the same problems?
Yeah, there's challenges there for sure. Even with a global sourcing group, which does a great job, there's still challenges in certain pockets, getting resins. I've been part of groups, to validate, resins that are coming in from different regions to make sure that they're the same, or equivalents. But on maybe a lighter side, I've always, the term that I heard some years ago with regard to some of these are, I know, force majeure. I think we've all maybe heard that term, right? And I remember the first time I heard it, I was like, I wonder what that means, because it sounds like forced misery to me.
I think it is.
But I know with these unfortunate storms that occurred, of course, in Texas, and then it seems like there's events that are unplanned, unforeseen, that are happening, of course, somewhat regularly. It seems like our industry is continually suffering, from these, and I've found myself thinking about the whole lean push, and how overall, and that's been a very big push, probably my whole career, right?
Lean?
20 years. Lean, yeah, right.
Yep.
Just have what you need when you need it, and the product that you need to ship when you need to ship it. And hearing the challenges you're having to these with lead times. So when lean works great, but when there's a hiccup, lean fails.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
I know that vendors, try to have stock, of certain things to help with that and surge capacity, so to speak. But I wonder if there's ever going to be a shift in mindset, from, so lean, that because we're having recurring events that will occur. Mother Nature will continue to be random, but how do you plan for that, right? That's difficult.
I mean, you can only plan so much.
Yeah.
And because you have budget constraints too, right? You can only buy so much material. If you don't have the customers to use that material, you buy too much. Like Denise, you're saying, it's custom grade material. If you buy too much of it, now you just have overstock of something that you can't use on anything else. So there's got to be that. I think there's got to be that balance. Have you found that your customers are understanding and lenient, or are they like putting the screws to you because they need what they need?
I think they're trying to do the best that they can. They need to keep their lines moving, and we're, in some cases we're using up the material that we have and providing partial shipments to them.
Yep.
We're doing everything that we can. But, it kind of goes back to, dual sourcing specifications. It can be time consuming at the beginning of a program, but if you dual source, at least it helps you out a little bit. It gives you a second option on your print of an alternate material. Obviously, everybody wants their stuff in a custom color, and a custom color looks great, but it becomes more difficult to get in situations like this.
Yeah.
Have you seen, just curious, Denise, have you seen like OEMs moving work at all? In these times, like, maybe like, let's say they have a vendor that isn't being responsive, whatever, are you receiving additional tool transfers or work? Or have you heard any of that during this time?
I haven't yet. I know that, it's a tough thing, industry like I'm in, pretty much everything needs to be validated. We have a pretty rigorous validation process that we go through to make sure these parts are going to be what they are in production. And so it's a tough thing to move a tool from one facility to another. So there's a lot of time involved in that, and a lot of money involved too, resources. So
It's like there's just no easy answer for it.
no. Hopefully it'll be over before too long and we can move on. When we talk about reoccurring natural concerns, like the tornadoes, that's an anticipated thing. It happens annually, right?
Right.
And this storm was very, very unusual, right?
Yeah.
Texas doesn't get ice storms. And so this, the tornadoes, they have a little bit of notice when that's going to be coming. The ice storm, they didn't have the notice. And so it's impacted so many different plants, not just a few like a tornado would. So, we're struggling through and trying to do the best we can. But, as soon as the notification came through that this was going to happen, that this lead time issue was going to happen, we contacted all of our customers right away and let them know that, hey, we need to be looking out as far as possible here, and we need to place orders with material because we want to be able to support you, and we're going to have a big gap if we don't have orders in the pipe.
And so are customers responsive for that? I mean, this is more for me wanting to know for myself. I mean, because now you're asking them to make long-term projections and probably give you, and give you purchase orders for things that are not even there yet, and put some skin in the game and make commitments. So how has that been?
It's been really good with a lot of our larger customers. We have really good relationships with them. They have a pretty good idea of what they're going to be looking at, annually from a sales standpoint. It's a little tougher with the smaller companies. I think they just have a hard time visualizing how long this impact is. 20 weeks for lead time on raw material it's just so unusual that, they're having a hard time wrapping their heads around that, I think.
Yeah. Jeremy, same?
Yeah, I'm far removed from it, in my current role. But, being where I was prior to coming to 3M, I can only imagine the cash flow implications too. If you're procuring product, and it's going to take 20 weeks and then you have to manufacture it, then sell it, and your terms with the customer might be 30 or 90 days. You're almost talking a complete year
right
before that cash turns. That's insane. I can't imagine the banking relationships that are going, the strains on those and all the dialogue that's probably occurring, between the different fiscal groups, companies to banks to make this happen.
And the hard part is it's nothing that anybody could have prevented. It's natural disaster. So it's like, who do you get mad at? Like the customer can't get mad at you. You can't get mad at the supplier. it's one of those instances to me where like, there's a big call for unity in the country, right? I think unity is a great thing. This is one of those business examples of what unity actually looks like, where we are all hurting in this together. Nobody is a winner. We're going to do the best we can to get you your product. You need to get that out. We understand. We need this from you. You need this from us. We need this. And just the way that all cycles and works together.
Right. Sure. And it's important, if you have a good relationship with your customer and there's a trust factor there, I think it makes it a whole lot easier. We try to create partnerships with our customers, because we're a team, and that certainly helps when situations like this happen that are outside of our control.
And I think that's key. What you just said there is totally key. And I think it's something that's not a lot even, but some businesses miss, is that your customer can't just be your customer, right? You have to have a partnership and a relationship with them based on trust and commitment, that I'm in it for you, you're in it for me, and we're going to do this long-term together. If you have that customer that's just looking for you for one project because nobody else would take it, they're beating you down on price and everything else, and you're like, we can't function like this. We want to be able to put our butts on the line for you and every chance we get, but we also have to know for a fact that you're going to be willing to do that for us too.
Sure.
That they got your back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those are the kind of customers we want.
Exactly. I think that's the kind of customer everybody wants. And even the people that don't want to do that are just nickel and diming people to death, they want those customers too. I don't understand why they won't be those customers.
Yeah.
Well, the downside is, as a consumer,
you
have no real visibility on what type of OEM they are.
Right. Right. John Casbon says there's one advantage of being a smaller business and not having the same specs on colors. We have a dry color and a custom blend colors. So we can just get natural material and custom blend to a specific color for the customer.
Sure. And we do that in some cases too. It depends on the program, the design of the part, how cool the color is.
Yeah. So I got a new thing. You guys want to do something fun? I got a new thing.
Let's do it.
There's a company called Best Self. Have you ever heard of Best Self?
No.
So they have these little card boxes.
Okay.
Like this one is a icebreaker card. And I think I might actually start using some of these in interviews, because I just pulled a card I think is really interesting. And I'd love to get, like, if you're listening, chime in with your answers on here, because I think it's a good question. It's a would you rather question. Would you rather be the star player on a losing football team or ride the bench on a winning one? Denise, go.
Holy cow. I would rather be on the losing team, I mean, it's all about the team to me, and the fun you're having, and I'm not real driven when it comes to having to win every single time, right? So I could be a star player on a losing team.
You could be, you said?
I could be.
Yeah.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Jeremy?
I see benefits in both. I think it kind of depends on where maybe you're at and what you're hoping to get out of it. Being on the bench on a winning team, imagine all the cool dynamics you could get to see, and eventually try to emulate, right? And try to find your best self to try to emulate all those great players that you were surrounded with. And then ultimately it comes to your time to get in the game and try to do it yourself. So I would hope that hopefully have learned all that, but I think I could always learn some more too. So I think I wouldn't mind being on the bench and being surrounded by greatness and just kind of checking that out. But I could also see myself trying to be the star player on a losing team and trying to lead that as well.
Yeah. I think the answer is probably both, right? At some point. Yeah. John Casbon says the star player, I want to use the best of my abilities. Absolutely. Like awesome. That's a solid answer for me. I think I would prefer to ride the bench on a winning team. I like to be the cheerleader sometimes. And I think even though you're riding the bench, you can ride the bench with some passion. and you know, make sure that you are cheering on your team the best way possible and riding that wave, and like you said, just trying to emulate them and get to that next level, and celebrating the wins with people, even though you've got behind the scenes successes, not just out in the open successes. I think there's huge benefits to both, and I've been on both. You know, I played hockey for a while, and everybody would tell me, you have to play with better people if you want to get better, and I would disagree and say, no, if I play with worse people, I'm automatically better. That's just the way that works. So I've been on both of those situations, and I think there's growth in all of it. But I agree with John. I agree with everybody. Like, both sides have their pluses and negatives. But I'm gonna save that for an interview question. That's a fun one.
That's a good one.
That'll tell you a little bit about who that potential team member is going to be, and how they're going to want to interact, and what they're going to want out of sales leads, and how they're going to be with working as a team. I think you can learn a lot there.
Mm-hmm. I do too.
So they've got all kinds of decks like this. We are not sponsored by them, but we should be. So they've got best self. They've got different ones for like writer's block and all kinds of stuff. So it's some good stuff.
Yeah. You know, around those whole topics, some advice that I remember when I was official, you know, for sure, when I was first interviewing, was I was told, just remember, Jeremy, they want to hear what you have to say.
Yes.
You know, and that just kind of helped me kind of get over my fear and really unnatural feeling of talking about yourself. You know, it's not something you normally do until you start to interview, I would say. At least I didn't anyway. You know, that little phrase helps me, you know, even in situations like this, or any type of situations. Like, hey, just remember, people are wanting to hear what you have to say. So just say it. Yeah.
We that was one of the difficult things when Adam asked me to be part of that panel that we're going to be doing in a couple of weeks, where he said, you know, we need a personal bio. Yeah. It's like, man, I hate writing those things. They're so awkward.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had never wrote one before, so it was all new for me. And I don't like to talk about myself too much, so it was a challenge.
Yeah. No, it's short and sweet. You know, it's funny. We all probably know a good friend of mine, Connor Carlin, right, within SPE. He gave a great keynote yesterday, One Man's Rubbish or One Man's Trash, at the Sustainability Conference for SPE. Anyway, I listened to it today. It was on LinkedIn. And,
okay.
You know, he was introduced, you know, and he wrote, you know, it's basically a bio of all of his career, academics, great, of course. But it was so funny, Connor, and his great authenticity and just humor. When he gets on, he's like, yeah, thanks for the introduction, but I think I'm going to have to rewrite that just so it's not not so drudgingly long. You know, he said it in a very lighthearted way. And so I kind of try to take that same mantra that Connor was alluding to. You know, get some interesting facts about yourself, and I try to sprinkle in a little bit of personal stuff too, but I just kind of make it short and get to the point.
Yeah. Oh, Mary Kate says, Tony, your bio was fantastic. Who was your editor? I can guess who my editor was.
I think Mary Kate's going to like her own comment on that one.
Yeah. Listen, I'm going to like her comment on that because she did a good job on it. She made a lot of good feedback. The first time I had to write one was for an AMBA event. And I reached out to Christina Fuges from Mold Making Technology. Yeah. And I was like, you know me. Can you help me with this? Can you just write my bio for me? Because I don't even know where to start. I don't want it to be too whatever. And she knocked it out of the park. It was great. And I couldn't find that one for Adam's request. So yeah, we went back to the drawing board and figured it out. But you know, I think it's good. I think as long as you can have some humility in your bragging about yourself, it's okay.
Yeah.
You know, because if you didn't have value, you wouldn't be asked to be part of it. And so it's good to recognize, like, I guess I must be valuable to these people. And I have something that they're looking for that other people must not. I should brag about it a little bit. Lindsay Diamond says that she would much rather play. She is not a bench warmer. I added that part, but she is not a bench warmer.
Yeah. No, I agree. Get out there and get in the game. There's definitely a part of that too.
Yeah. But, like we were talking about earlier, right? There's also a risk in that. Before we were talking, my appearance is based on the fact that I may or may not have broken my leg. That'll be an update in the next episode, because I've got this ultra competitive edge to me that has probably served me well in life. But at 43 years old, playing in a men's league soccer game, I can't just go out and play for fun. It's just not in my DNA. I'm like guns blazing, all in. You got me. This is who I am. And, had an incident yesterday. Hopefully it all works out well. After this, I'm going to go to the doctor and find out where we're at. But, it's a thing.
Yep, it is. Nothing wrong with that. It's part of who you are. What you bring to the situation, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I wish it was like, my enthusiasm and my excitement and my drive got the best of me because I ran into a burning building to help a child, not block a soccer ball and fall on my ankle. That's ridiculous. That's going to get me some razzes from my wife, my kids, the team here. So
right.
it'll be a thing.
Yeah.
It'll be a thing. So one of the things we like to do on the show is ask for prayer requests. This is a show that is geared towards optimism, positivity, right? So everything is on the table. Everything is worth talking about. But at the end of the day, we want to have a positive spin on it, and realize that with every situation that there's an opportunity for joy and optimism. And part of that to me is prayer. I don't think there's anything more powerful and positive than that. So if you guys are listening and you want to put something in the chat, something that you would like a prayer request for, we will see that. Adam just joined us, and he says, you do not always need to be the star to be a key contributor to the team. I'd be totally fine being a bench warmer. As Tony noted, you can be an awesome cheerleader from the bench and motivate those on the field. All kinds of good answers.
Mm-hmm.
All kinds of good answers. But you do need the star player, and you do need the bench warmer.
That's right. You need
And I
people
think
that fill those roles.
The other part of it would be, did you guys ever watch, this is the way my brain works, sorry. Now I can't even think of it. It's on Disney Plus, the soccer show.
All I watched is The Mandalorian on Disney Plus. Sorry.
That's a good show too. No, it's on Apple TV. I'm sorry. Ted Lasso. Did you guys ever watch Ted Lasso?
No.
If you feel like, and this goes for anybody, if you feel like you're in a leadership position and you want to have a good show that makes you laugh and has some character and some feeling to it, Ted Lasso is such a good show. It's Jason Sudeikis, whatever. And it's about this coach who was a football coach, and he takes the college team to the championships, and a football club, a soccer club in England, hires him to come be the coach. And it's like a fish out of water kind of story. But the way that he leads his team is so awesome. And there's a character on that show who is a star player, who is a terrible star player. He's really good, but he doesn't have any concern for the team around him. So I think that's the other part of it too, right? Yeah. Like you can be that star player on a losing team, but what kind of star player are you? Are you a star player that's going to lift everybody else up around you? Are you a star player that's just going to have all the glory for yourself when you're doing well and not try and help the team around you? So Ted Lasso.
It's all about the help. It's all about the help.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Do you guys, Denise and Jeremy, do you have any other topics you would like to cover before we close out? We're approaching an hour. It goes so fast, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Fun.
Yeah. No, I guess maybe a quick prayer request that I've been thinking about lately is my grandma just turned 90. We're going to go out and visit her this weekend. And one thing that I think about is when I talk with her, a lot of her friends, close friends and family, have passed, and so she feels a lot of loneliness, so that's definitely one thing that I'm mindful of as I continue down this journey of life, to try to be a friend and try to be that person that connects with people, just because I know my grandma definitely is struggling with some of that now.
Yeah, that's huge. It's huge. I think it's something that we've all struggled with this past year, and it's a, you know, I try not to get into too far down a political rabbit hole, but like, you know, my grandma's 98 years old, and I haven't seen her in over a year. And, you know, part of it was the fear in the beginning that like, if you bring something there, you, you know, you would see it a lot of times when people say, making a sacrifice to not see somebody this year will guarantee you'll see them the next 3, 4 years. But there's no guarantee in that, right? Like you're not guaranteed tomorrow. And so, you know, if you avoid seeing somebody now for their health, and they don't make it to next year, you lost a year of opportunity to be with that person. And it's a struggle that is like, there's no right or wrong to that. You know, I'm very fortunate. I work with my parents. So even though we had COVID for a year, you know, I got to see my parents every day. And I know that's a blessing that a lot of people don't have. And I don't take that lightly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd agree. Yeah, you know, working back to what we talked about earlier, definitely one blessing from COVID was the fact that I was working at home for a while.
Yeah.
So was my wife, and all of our kids were home.
Yeah.
You know, so no doubt those are challenges exist too, but what a neat opportunity. And we took advantage of it as best as we could.
And so many people would say, right, I want more family time. How do I get
Right.
more family time? I want to be home more
Yeah.
often. And so,
Well, there it is.
you know, last year in March, April, we'd be walking around the block as a family in the middle of the day, taking a break from work. And, you know, families are outside playing and going on walks together. And I told my son, I said, you know, we got what we asked for, but we didn't get what we wanted. So we got to be more specific when we're asking, you know.
Right.
You know,
There you go.
I think God's got a little bit of sense of humor sometimes. That's why we have a platypus and a giraffe. And if you don't tell them what you want, you may get it.
Yeah. Right. Dang it. I got exactly what I asked for. Darn it. You know,
but it's not what I wanted.
right. Oh, funny.
Denise, thoughts?
Yeah, I think that this past year has been a challenge for a lot of people from a health standpoint, not being able to see family. And there's certainly, you know, family that, you know, we would hope to be able to see that maybe live far away, or maybe have health issues that you just can't go see them and at the moment. So, you know, just making sure that they're all safe is super important to me.
I agree. Sorry, I was just asking Adam if he could share a link to our upcoming event so people can register for that. I think that would be a good thing. So hopefully he'll be able to throw that in the chat for everybody. And we are approaching 12:30, which is a good show. That's a good show. And really, before we wrap up, I just want to thank you guys for everything that you bring to the SPE and the organization, and, you know, just the industry, you know, your knowledge and the way that you do things, and your willingness to contribute. It helps us to continue to grow and to get better. I think right now, plastic is in a weird spot where some people don't understand it. They think it's bad. They think it's evil. They think it's ruining the world. And other people realize that, like, this pen is plastic. We need plastic. You know, all the walls that we put up are plastic. You know, the packaging for medical supplies, they're plastic. The stints, the things that go in your eye, they're all plastic. And plastic's not the enemy. And we all need to continue to educate people and share our knowledge and our passion for what it is that we do, whatever that looks like every single day. And, you know, you guys being part of this show and being part of the SPE and helping on that young professionals group, that shows that you guys care and you want to see that grow and change. So thank you.
Of course. Thank you for having us.
Yes. Thank you. And that, like with any great virtual events, I definitely say it's awesome to meet you guys this way, but I am so looking forward to when we can meet in person and hopefully share an adult beverage, or at least a few jokes in person. One of the two. Or
both. I'm going to go with both.
Sounds good.
I'm with you.
Alliance is open if you guys are ever in the area. Jeremy, you know, Minnesota is not that far away. Mm-hmm. I am trying to plan a trip out to go see Metro Mold and Lindsay and some of the customers out there. I would love to stop in and and
Hit me up
do
when you're up here.
face to face. That would be awesome.
How close
and
are you to Wrigley Field?
I'm in the burbs,
Okay.
but it doesn't mean we can't do it. You know, it's a hop, skip, and a jump away. I'm not 100%. I'm not a baseball guy per se, but I am a hanging out, telling
Yeah,
stories,
same.
having a cocktail kind of guy.
hmm
So,
And hanging out at Wrigley, I've only done it a few times, but I have enjoyed the few times that I've done it. So
yeah, it's a good place. It's a good place. Adam has put the link to our event in the chat. So if you're listening to this, it's on the LinkedIn chat. So I'll copy it and I'll put it on the YouTube chat, and I'll also put it on the Facebook chat. So we have it there. But if you're getting out of school and you're trying to get some tips and tricks on virtual interviewing, or maybe not even just getting out of school, but you're forced in a career change and you need to do some prep. There's going to be a panel discussion on just that. And we'd be happy to have as many people on there as possible, and asking questions and being part of it. So that link is on there, and please tune in and join us. So I'm going to pray for us real quick, and then we can all go about our days.
All right.
So let's pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for every opportunity that you give us. Thank you for this technology. Thank you for the opportunity to be together, even though we're not together. And it can remind us that you do the same things for us, right? Your spirit is with us, even though we can't see you. We can't touch you and we can't feel you, but you're there. And that can be a good reminder when we're on Zoom or Skype or FaceTime or whatever that is, that you're always there, just like we can have communication. We pray that you would continue to be with all of us, and that you would keep us safe, that you would keep us humble, that you would help us to learn and grow from all the situations that you put us in, that our connections and our networking and our relationships would grow and be stronger over this time, that Jeremy's grandma would find strength, and her birthday coming up would be a celebration of her life, and it'd be many more years to come. And we just ask that you would be with us, that you would help us to grow, that you would continue to challenge us in ways that we don't understand for benefits later. And it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
amen.
All right, Denise, Jeremy, thank you once again for your willingness to be on the show. I'd love to do this again with you sometime, and I look forward to a couple weeks when we can have somebody else asking us the questions. It'd be fun.
Sounds good.
Awesome.
Thanks a lot.
Awesome to meet you both.
All right, thank you guys. Have a great day.
All
You
right.
too. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
I'm stuck here. I'm gonna go there and then stop sharing. All right, everybody, I just want to say thank you once again for watching the Manufacturing Alliance Chat and Chow. Again, I'm Tony Demakis. I think you know that by now. And I love doing these kinds of conversations, and I would love to have them with you. So if you found this interesting, if you'd like to share your stories, if you'd like to come on and tell us what's going on with your business, and you have some topics that you'd like to cover, whether that's hiring or recycling or sustainability or any other issues, I want to hear from you, and we want to do a show with you, and we want to help you to grow in your professional and your personal lives. And most importantly, we want to put a little bit of a smile on your face and make sure that your day is going well. We want to make a difference for you, your company, your family, however we can do that. It's going to be different for everybody. So on behalf of myself, Denise, Jeremy, and the entire Alliance family, I want to say thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Take care, and God bless.